Lemon Amiga presents a Playguide video review. Sit back and enjoy the show.
Hey there, welcome to another special episode of the Lemon Amiga Game Guides and Reviews. In this one we'll be checking out Wings of Death, which was designed by the Gigabyte crew and released by Thalion Software, or Thalion, in September 1990. This is the final guide before we go into our summer break, and this is another shoot 'em up because this is the shoot 'em up season, and it's yet another one of those games that I've never actually seen before and never really played. To introduce the game, we get the Thalion logo, and you may remember seeing that logo on Lionheart, which appeared after this. Remember, that's a 1993 game, and this was released in 1990. After that, we get to see some amazing cover art, and I really wish this was the cover of the game. I think this is, well, it looks like ham mode with lots and lots of colours used, and is very, very impressive. On the main title sequence, we get some similarly impressive music and a heavy soundtrack to go along with this game, and some impressive speech samples as well. I absolutely love this jolly music, and it gives just the right atmosphere for what we are about to get, which is a bullet fest. And you can see some of the credits on the title sequence as well, and you may notice that this was originally coded and converted from the Atari ST version, which of course didn't have this music. This introduction really reminds me of the Savage game with that great music, and this is similarly a multi-load game because this isn't the option screen, this is just the introduction, and so to get to the introduction you have to press any key to load the main part. Again, similar to Savage, we get a very basic options screen where we can change the music or just the sound effects, or we can have the music and the sound effects, and we can also check out some information about the game, and we can also check out those high scores. And it's great that this game has a high score table, and you can save those on the WHD load version. You can see I've had 2 practice goes because this is an unfamiliar game, but I only got halfway through level 1, so let's see if I can get any further with this try.
Fire. Dragonfire.
If Swiv is Silkworm in vertical, then this is Apidia in vertical, and this was released in 1990. Apidia was a 1992 game, but you can see it has some good graphics and some great speech sound effects, which give away the power-up system, which is great. It means that we don't have to concentrate on our power-up system and our leveling up. We can simply hear what's going on, and we can see that we've managed to level up something called the Dragon Fire, which means that we can flame our way through those enemies.
Energy.
Inside some of the waves you'll find power-ups, and these are critical, not only to pick those up but also to avoid the ones that you don't want. And just like so many load them out shooters, we'll have to collect the same ones over and over again in order to load out our power-up, and if we collect those skulls we will return to 0 power-up and the normal bullets that you saw at the beginning of this level. So it's important to keep powering up the same weapon, and we took a massive hit there. You can see the damage bar is on the very bottom of the screen, which is represented by an electric shock, and the more we get hit by these things, the more we'll get shocked until we break the crystal at the end and we'll die. Just like Hybris, we gain a jolly soundtrack and can also see those bullets on screen, which is absolutely fantastic. It means that we can avoid them, and this being an avoid 'em up, you don't really want a massive dragon on the screen every time you power that thing up, and sometimes with Hybris it just makes the hitbox bigger because you have a bigger craft on that screen.
Destroyer. Speed.
We've also gained something called the Destroyer, and just like those thrust games that we remember on the 8-bits, that thing will waggle around that thing like trying to tow a caravan around a Grand Prix circuit. It will fall all over the place and hopefully collide with things on the way around. But it's not very easy to control that thing as it swings wildly, and so the Destroyer in this case is really a dumb machine which you have to really build up, and sometimes those things can save our life. On the first level we get to storm that wizard's castle, and we find some Roman and Greek gods piling up on the floor, and we cannot collide with the background, which is absolutely great because there's nothing to worry about, only those constant bullets. And it's not a one-hit kill either because we can find extra health periodically over the level, and we can also pick up extra lives as well. You can see we're on 4 lives at the moment. Having never ventured further than halfway through level 1, I've never actually seen the boss before, and that wasn't really so hard with the full power dragon fire. And in this game, like many shooters, you will have to make do with whatever weapon it provides you with, and if you lose that dragon fire, you can see we've powered down a little bit, and that means you'll have to make do with the rest of the weapons.
Power beam. Circle blast. Spread fire.
Every weapon has its advantages and disadvantages, and of course you'll have to power that thing up for it to be anywhere near decent enough to kill all these enemies, and if you blow away the enemies it will give you the firepower. So it's a catch-22 situation. The leaders will progress and the lame brains of course will flounder and make this game look very difficult simply because they haven't got that firepower to progress.
Spread fire. Thunderball.
If this game wasn't already a lottery, we gain the Thunderball, and thanks to that we get to mow through all these enemies and get all the best bonuses. We can also gain some score bonuses as well. So in this game, it's more or less avoiding all the enemies, avoiding all the firepower, avoiding all the skulls, and avoiding instant death by colliding with something just a bit too long. And you can see we also have a shield which lasts a pretty long time.
Thunderball, thunderball. Power beam. Thunderball. Speed.
Collecting and ignoring the right power-ups is critical, so you'll have to play the level over and over until you find out which is the best route and which is the best power-up route. And upgrading these things is critical, but as you can see, when we die, unfortunately, we'll lose one level of power-up, which isn't so bad if you're on level 4, but if you're only on level 1, then unfortunately you might even lose that weapon.
Speed. Energy.
Parts of this music remind me of Tony Crowder's Killer Ring soundtrack for the Commodore 64, and also you can see all the flowers on the floor. These remind me, of course, of Apidia, what those might have looked like from above. And as an above shooter, this is great. It isn't the best graphics I've ever seen, but this game is colourful, and for a 1980s game, just at the dawn of the best games on the Amiga, I think they did a pretty good job. The scrolling is very smooth, and the bullets are very smooth, and you may be surprised that this game can handle up to 95 bullets and enemies on the screen at the same time. That's no mean feat, especially for 1990, and with all these graphics and colours as well. And the screen doesn't seem to stutter or slow down when that action gets very busy, even when there are huge sprites on the screen, and we will find a huge enemy now, which is the end of level boss. I'm actually hammering away with the old fire button on the zip stick with the joystick on my knee.
Auto fire.
But now with that auto fire, it makes life a lot easier, and you just have to remember that you can hold down that fire button to fire now, and of course when you die you'll lose that auto fire, but it just makes the job of cleaning up the level a bit more satisfactory when you don't have to concentrate on breaking your wrists with that fire button. Appreciate the range of weaponry on offer, and unfortunately you can't waggle the joystick, I don't think, and create a smart bomb effect, but apart from that, one of the weakest weapons is this circle blast, or circle blast as it says, and this thing is really weedy even when powered up, so I'd avoid this at all costs, and even normal firepower is better than this, for obvious reasons.
Energy.
Despite sometimes very cool and melodic music, we actually find a very hectic time on these levels, and when we get right to the end, of course, we'll face a huge end of level boss, which I don't really relish facing with this particular weapon, because as you can see, it's absolutely weedy. But like so many of those bosses that we find in this particular genre, all you have to do is to fly around it and be absolutely immortal and invulnerable to the myriad of shots which it is firing out. boss reminds me a little of the end of Chaos Engine, where you have to run around that boss and distract its firepower. This, I have to say, is a lot easier, because all we have to do is angle our firepower towards that head, and of course we couldn't get crushed. And you may notice the legs of the animal are actually moving as we try to kill it. By luck or by judgment, we've made it as far as level 3. Of course, I've never seen this before. It's the Lethal Swamp, and, well, hopefully the gradual difficulty curve of this game will continue as long as we have the correct firepower.
Circle blast. Auto fire.
In the swamp we'll find a range of skeletons and a range of hands like the Addams family, which will attack us, and lethal blades which will fly around, and those skeletons' heads pop off and they are very funny, and you can see something which reminds us of ancient Greece. But having lost all our lives in quick succession, it's a quick trip to the game over screen, and then you'll get to enter your name on the high score table before your score resets, and then we can choose to use one of our 4 continues to continue from where we left off with the reset score, and hopefully this time I will get something better, or perhaps not, than this absolutely pathetic weedy weapon. And I think the graphics on offer are well drawn, at least for 1990, getting out of those really terrible 80s graphics that we used to have on the Amiga, and this is an Atari ST conversion, and they tried to squeeze the absolute best that they could from the conversion, including several more colours and smoother scrolling, and you may be surprised that the same disc with the Amiga version appeared with the ST version, so they simply shipped the same disc on a double-sided double density. And just like those dual format magazine cover discs, the Amiga or the ST would read whichever one was appropriate. Of course, as this is Wings of Death, you will gain extra wings for extra speed, and I think it's great to be flying around in a dragon, although I wish that we could simply press space and unleash a jet of fire to save us in tight spots, because we cannot unfortunately rely on this particular weapon. And we seem to be losing lives simply because we don't have that firepower. And you can see danger on the floor. Well, that's whirlwinds and fire and things which will kill us, which we need to know, and that's a great heads up. But unfortunately, you can see another drawback of this game is sometimes the sheer amount of firepower on the screen means that we don't actually find where we are, and we can lose ourselves amongst all the enemies, and that's particularly difficult on some levels. Of course, I've never actually seen this level before, and I'm just winging it.
Life.
But the game generously giving us an extra life every now and again makes sure that we can top up to a maximum of 5. And I think that this is very well coded and very well programmed, and it always gives this player a fighting chance.
Dragonfire. Energy, speed. Hunter.
As if there weren't already lots of power-ups, we've managed to collect a hunter, which for a very limited time will go around helping us on that screen, and I wish that that hung around until the rest of the level, but unfortunately it doesn't. And just like the Chaos Engine, unfortunately those things are a bit like a waste of time when they appear on quite an easy section. And in the swamp we'll also find, of course, Viking longboats, which you find in every swamp, as we well know.
Circle blast.
Even the weakest weapon is handier than this circle blast, and I really should have kept the basic dragon fire for all the swamp enemies. And yes, we can fire backwards, but that isn't really much of a help when most of the enemies aren't really in that position. So you can see we are still trying to get to the end of this level, and we are rapidly approaching the end of level boss, again with the weediest firepower in the game.
Spread fire.
Special Brucey bonus, we've swapped that card for Spread Fire, and the Spread Fire isn't very good, but it's still better than the other one. So what we get to do is attack from the front, and we get to take on this enemy. As long as we have this decent forward firepower, then the enemies aren't too difficult in this game, and that's absolutely great. In this case, all we have to do is to blow up these boulders, whatever this guy is lobbing towards us, and then aim for the head, and that will float around the screen for us to blow up at our leisure. Of course, this being level 3, nothing could be quite that easy, but even with this weak weapon, even though it does take some time, I'm not really losing much energy with all this manoeuvring, and so whilst you see my usual grid formation attack pattern, I can avoid most of these bullets and concentrate on the boss. Wings of Death comprises of 7 levels, and this is level 4, and yes, I've still never seen this game on this stage before, and before I'd only ever tried this game, and I never got very far with it. So maybe this is luck or judgment, but whatever it is, we find some hearts and some aliens trying to attack us on the fire level, so of course we can power our craft up right from the beginning, and all we have to do is to keep all this firepower all the way to the end, which isn't very easy, but we'll give it a go.
Energy.
Just like Swiv, this game features a lava level, and Swiv came out after this in 1991, and maybe this game actually paved the way for a new line of better shooters that we experienced on the Amiga after the failings of Sidewinder and pretty basic games that we had to endure in the 1980s. And the firepower on offer is pretty good, but you can't afford to wade into anything gung-ho, otherwise you'll lose a life, and that means we'll have to use up another continue just to try and get just a little bit further.
Dragon fire.
So whilst we try again with the 4th level out of the 7 in this game, I might make this look easy, but apparently the end levels are very hard, as you would imagine, and so I think the difficulty curve really lures the player in to get further if they are any good, and the best players of course won't have too much of a hard time with this. And just to mention another trick under the hood is this game actually runs in NTSC mode and it auto stretches to PAL. Yes, for some reason they designed this in NTSC mode, perhaps because of the 60 frames per second, and it auto adjusts on an NTSC machine to full screen, and then it auto adjusts on a PAL machine to the same full screen, pixel for pixel. So the game appears pixel for pixel on both the PAL and the NTSC version, which is exactly the same dual format disc that works with the Atari ST.
Dragonfire. Life.
The Fabulous Wings of Death was coded by Mark Rusacha, and he began with the X-Troll demo group. X-Troll wrote for the Atari ST and a number of graphics demos. He then joined the Gigabyte crew and branch of Thalion, and they released a number of games on the Amiga. First of all, in Christmas 1989, they released Chambers of Shaolin, and that was a beat-em-up game. And then after that they released Dragonflight in 1990, which was a Dungeon Master game. And then after this they went on to Monster Business in 1991 and Lethal Excess, which was the sequel in 1991, and finally Stone Age was another Mark Rusacha project which appeared in 1992, and he moved on to the consoles and worked on the Iron Soldier series, which first appeared on the Jaguar and the PS1. Graphics were created by Eric Simon, who moved on to create the amazing graphics for Lionheart in 1993, and he also created the graphics for the Amiga conversion of The Last Ninja, which was known as The Last Ninja Remix for some reason, and it is a great game. You can see I'm playing this on the old 30, so it's a little bit quick, but The Last Ninja conversion on the Amiga is pretty good. Finally, the music was created by Jochen Hippel, who created most of the music for most Thalion games, as well as most of the ones that you've heard on this review, and the Amiga conversion of The Last Ninja, and he went on to work on the Turrican 3 soundtrack in 1993. The Amiga, you can see we're bravely marching on through this level, and hopefully we can find something better to attack the final boss with than this pathetic weapon that we have at the moment, and luckily it gives us some great weapons at the end of this level so that we can hopefully have a better time of it.
Energy. Power beam. Speed.
Power beam is pretty good, and this may also remind you of other shooters. When we power that thing up, it will split apart and wave like a fan around the screen.
Power beam. Power beam.
Even with this weapon, if you collect a skull, then it can be a pretty rough ride.
Thunderball.
But just in case you're on 0 firepower, it gives us the Thunderball at the end, which is really all we need, and this boss, just like most bosses, will just need to be looped around several times and avoided like normal. but just at the end of this level is also very difficult, and if you fall in the trap of attacking these things in the wrong order or picking up too many skulls, unfortunately you'll decrease your chances of getting through to that end of level boss. Moving on to those scores. Acorn magazine gave Wings of Death 86%, Amiga Joker even gave this 81%, Joystick magazine awarded it 80%, Amiga Format awarded Wings of Death 76%, along with Generation 4. The current Lemon Amiga score is 74%, Amiga Action gave it 73%, Datto magazine gave this 70%, Ace awarded this 59%, and Amiga User International awarded Wings of Death the lowest score at just 51%. Tony Horgan rated the game, and he said that this was not exceptional and not extraordinary, and certainly not worth the 25 quid that they were asking for this game. That means Wings of Death gets the average score of 7 out of 10, or 70%, and I think that's still in the realms of good, and it's still a great fun game, and it's another one of those hidden gems on the Amiga, so why not check this game out for yourself? Thank you once again for viewing another Lemon Amiga play guide and review to this great game, and I hope to see you again later this year with the second half of the 4th series. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.